Today, we're unboxing the SNES Classic, both US and European versions, by Nintendo. Welcome to A Game From a Box. This is Sergio YM, and after waiting and spending months on Now in Stock, BrickSeek, Twitter, Reddit, that day has finally arrived. The SNES Classic is here, and our pre-orders went through. They weren't canceled, so that's a good thing. We managed to snag a US version and European version, so let's not waste any time and let's unbox them. And here it is, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Edition, and it's the same size as the NES Classic. Both boxes share some similarities. At the top, we have the icons of their unique controls with Classic beneath, and the layout of the box is the same on all sides with, of course, the different graphics. So if you're a collector, I'd keep these boxes because I'm sure we can expect the same for future Classic releases. Back to the SNES Classic box. On the right, games included. These are the featured games. We have the unreleased Star Fox 2. Below that, the featured games are Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, F-Zero, Super Mario Kart, Legend of Zelda, and more. Down here, Super Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Edition with the same font as the original. Then we have an image of the tiny console itself with the controllers on the side, and yeah, the box imitates the original SNES box with a lot of detail. On the side, we have some info on the SNES Classic controller. Feel free to pause if you want to read that. Then on the other side, we have some SNES console info. Then to the back, we have an explosion of colors and graphics. My eyes have no idea where to focus, so let's start with that list of 21 games on the left. As a kid, I only had about 10 games, so this is overwhelming to me. Outside of the featured games on the front, we have the long-awaited Earthbound. Then there's Mega Man X, Super Mario RPG, Yoshi's Island, so many amazing titles. And at the bottom, we have the biggest surprise when this was first announced, which is Star Fox 2. Cannot wait to try that out. Then let's have a look at all of this chaotic yet beautiful cover art. There's Link, Mario in his cart, that creepy, realistic Howard the Duck looking fox. All the artwork is just vibrant and colorful and energetic. I just love it. And that last row down there is made up of in-game screenshots. And now let's get inside. Starting off, we have some paperwork. Here we have startup instructions along with illustrations, and it seems that there's more here. This opens up to some info on the games. Now you're playing with Superpower, and this is like a poster, which is too big to frame, so here's some B-roll. Then we have warranty and user agreement info, but let's put that aside and get to the system itself. Let's start off with the console and leave the controllers for later. Comes in this one in here, extremely tiny, and here we go. I won't lie, the nostalgia levels are through the roof right now. I have not held an SNES for decades, but as a kid, this was my first console. All right, let me calm down, let me breathe. First, we have the power and reset buttons, which do function. Reset has a spring, so it goes up and comes back down. Power is a switch, so up is on, down is off. The eject switch is decorative because we can't use it with actual cartridges. Taking a look around, there's not much here. It's a very clean and simple design. You have some little ridges down there and gray all throughout. On the back, we have our HDMI out and micro USB DC in and what looks like vents at the top. Then on the front, we have the controller ports and the power light. So this is actually a decorative panel and it pops off from the bottom to reveal the real ports inside. I believe they're the same as the Wii remotes. Not the fanciest way to do this, that plastic hinge there, although it's thick, I'm hoping it doesn't tear with time. Then that closes nice and tightly. At the bottom we have some FCC info, model number, and it's made in China. We also have small rubber feet on each corner to keep it from moving, and that's pretty much it. One thing that Eurogamer found is that all the hardware internals are also the same as the NES Classic, which is probably why Nintendo announced that they'd be re-releasing it next year. Now on to the controllers. We do get two of them, and this time around with longer cords than that with the NES Classic. And there it is. The feels are intense right now. I remember as a kid, this thing was huge in my hands, and now it feels so small. So it has a great feel and texture to it throughout. Not sure if it's the same as the original though. At the top we have our rounded L and R buttons that curve to the sides. Then rubber select and start buttons, nice and soft. Next, there's the glossy Y, X, A, and B buttons. The top row, Y and X, are indented and the bottom are rounded out. Finally, we have the very simple D-pad on the left. Same as I remember, all the buttons have this kind of soft, membrane-ish feel to them. Not much on the back, pretty plain and simple. Then at the end of the cable here, we have the plug. It's the same one we first saw on the Wii nunchucks, and they plug right into the console. You do have to be careful though, because these lock into place, so you have to press to release that lock and remove them. So that's the controller, and we get 2 of them, and yes, with longer cords. I'll bring up dimensions and weight in the full review. Last few things are cables. We have our AC adapter for USB, then the power cable, which is micro USB in, so if you have some of those lying around, you should be able to use that as well. Finally, we have our HDMI cable, which looks the same as the one that comes with the Nintendo Switch. Alright, on to the next one. This is the SNES Classic Euro version. Sadly, we couldn't get our hands on the Japanese Famicom version, but you'll see that they're pretty much the same here. Back in 1990, Nintendo first released the console as the Super Famicom in Japan. Then, the following year, 1991, they released it in North America as the Super Nintendo. But everyone outside of the US got this version here, except it gets, a bit more complicated. The naming and slight details in the casing were different per country. For this classic release, I'm pretty sure this European version looks the same as the Famicom version that Japan got, and the only difference should be the box, paperwork, and that the Japanese version comes with slightly different games. That last part won't matter as much, considering that this SNES should be as easy to mod as the NES Classic since the hardware is the same. I don't know why I said it in that way. Moving on, let's do a side-by-side of the box so you can see how different the layouts are. Pretty much everything is completely different, and I believe that's because it resembles the box that Europe got back then. On the back, we have the cover art of all the games laid out differently in this grid, and under that, you'll notice it says the games are available in English only. Let's look inside. First thing we see is an actual manual that's very detailed. And surprise, surprise, we actually get a card to redeem 300 platinum points for My Nintendo. Just goes to show that Europe always gets some of the best My Nintendo rewards. While here we're stuck with wallpapers. Once again, let's start with the console. I actually love how this looks. Okay, so first thing I'm noticing, there's a nice plastic texture to the console that the other doesn't seem to have. At the top, we have that icon associated with it, the fake cartridge slot, then our buttons. Reset is very nice and easy to use. The fake eject button doesn't do anything. And then the power switch, very easy to use. We also have a bigger power notification light on the bottom right. On the front, we have our controller ports. It's very flush against the body, and it has a single indent at the bottom to just pop it out. This one also uses the same Wii Remote plugs too. Back here, we have the same ports, HDMI and micro USB DC in. At the bottom, same 4 rubber feet. Now for comparison, here's both versions side by side. They're about the same size and weight. Keep in mind that the internals are the same, straight from the NES Classic with slight variations in software. Now let's check out the controllers. As you can see, it's the same layout, but you'll notice the icon is different in the logo at the top, and the buttons are in blue, green, red, and yellow. Another thing is that the US buttons have indents on X and Y, which the European version does not, and there's also a very slight difference in the color of the gray plastic. Not a big deal. The plugs are also the same, so both versions should work with one another. The last few things, we get the HDMI and power cable, but we do not get an AC adapter. This is most likely due to the large amount of plugs and adapters they'd have to include to make everyone happy. I suppose it's not that big of a deal since we all have smartphones, tablets, and smart TVs which we can hook up that USB power cable to. So we will have a full review of the unit, but we do have to first test it out. We want to play all the games, see how it looks on a 4K TV, check out possible mods, lots to do. But before we get to that, let me quickly set it up, show you the UI, and how it all works. So here we have all 21 games. Below each, we have 4 little circles for the save files and whether it's 1 or 2 players. If you hold down left or right on the D-pad, you can also quickly scroll through all of those games. At the top, we have our menu. In display, we can choose CRT filter, 4:3, or pixel perfect, and we also have a few frame images to choose from. In settings, we have My Gameplay Demo and Classic Demo. Ticking these on and off again toggles them so it then plays a little demo of either a random title or your saved gameplays. Then there's Screen Burn-In Reduction, which you should always leave on, and System Reset. Next is language, but these only apply to the menu interface and not the games themselves. Legal notices, and finally, manuals, which redirects you to their website. Back here, when you're on the games, if you press select, you can sort them in a few ways. And then pressing A instantly starts that title. So you can play your game, when you want to leave it, you hit the reset switch and it'll bring you back to the menu. You'll see a flying little box which lets you save your current game state, and you have a few options with those as well. That pretty much sums it up. Now let's check out the European SNES interface. It's pretty much the same as the American, but the only difference that we could find are the background and borders, which match the corresponding console. Everything else looks and works the same. So there's the unboxing. You saw the US version, the Euro version, you saw the interfaces. Let me show you a little bit of Star Fox 2. As I mentioned, I'll be working on a full review of the SNES Classic after testing it out, so I'll go through more details there, and if you have any questions you want me to address in that review, please let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, we'll see you for the next box. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to help us out, you can do so by clicking that thumbs up button, and while you're at it, why not subscribe for more content? It's free. We also love to hear you out, so please leave a comment down below or talk with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm Sergio IM, and I'll see you for the next box.